Check. Good morning, everyone. So we are on the second day of Science Show Conclave. That is a 3-day program happening at Visvesvaraya Industrial and Technological Museum today. So I welcome everyone to the second day of this session, this occasion. For the first session of the day, we have Srimati Bhama Sridharan, founder Children's Science Club, Bangalore. Her session would be on visualizing maths through origami. It is my pleasure to be introducing her. Uh, it, she is a truly inspiring educator who has made a remarkable transition from the IT industry to science education. After working for 18 years as a software engineer with a background of computer engineering and consultant in reputed IT companies, she followed her passion and moved into the world of hands-on science learning. For the past 24 years, she has been running a much loved children's science club at IASC for students of grade 3 to 7, where children discover science and math through experiments and joyful learning. She has served as a faculty member at the Anubhava Science Foundation, working to enhance science education in government schools, including designing and implementing a 20-day teacher enrichment program in collaboration with Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology. Currently, she volunteers as a STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, what else? Arts and Maths resource person for several NGOs and serves as a board member and academic consultant at Dream School Foundation, where she works to strengthen science and math learning among underprivileged children and empowers teachers. She is also a trustee of CLE Trust, which provides free online learning and teacher training for marginalized communities. Through the Project Eco platform, she conducts nationwide online sessions for teachers promoting joyful engagement, conceptual clarity, and critical thinking, all of which are aligned with the pedagogy of National Educational Policy, that is NEP, focus on experiential learning. So please join me in welcoming an educator who embodies passion, purpose, and impact. Let's welcome her for the session. Welcome, ma'am. Just a small request to everyone here. Please avoid coming in front of the camera as we're streaming online and we don't want disturbance in between. Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Hello? On ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ? Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. So, good morning. So, it's my pleasure and honor to be here at Visvesvaraya Industrial Museum. And this is a place which is very close to my heart because I've been born and brought up in Bangalore, and I visited this countless number of times, and when I was small, it was something really, really special place, because it was the only place where we could find hands-on activities. And yeah, so congratulations on this Diamond Jubilee year. And today, my topic here, I've chosen something called like fractals, which is a relatively new area in math. And it's a very beautiful area. It has a lot of art in it, as well as science. And this is one way which, we can teach exponents for children, right? So let's see. So first of all, why do we need, we can teach exponents the same way, like what we traditionally do. We can say like 2 power 4 is nothing but 2 multiplied 4 times and all that. So why do we need this new way, or this different approach to learning math? I'll just spend a few slides on it, and then we'll go into what fractals are. So like, I find math beautiful, and if somebody asks me, yeah, thank you. So so if somebody asks me how is math, what I feel about math, I find that it's beautiful. It's like a lot of patterns in it, and so much of nature can be described by our math, and then it's all about making connections and so on. But in general, in the general public, if you go and talk about math, generally they find, children or adults even, they find, what is the response we get? We get that it's, it's very boring, or it is very scary. Should I stop? Yeah, okay. So generally what they find, that math is very difficult, and it is, many people find it, they don't find it as beautiful, or it's like, something that is joyful to learn, right?
Yeah. I'll just put it in a right way. I may have to put it here.
Blouse is,
Yes. No, it won't come.
okay, yeah. Okay, is it better now? Okay. Okay, so this, what we call as math anxiety, it's really real, in the sense, like many people, when they are confronted, almost like, it's not just, I don't like math, it's that they get this fear of math. They look at a math problem, and it is well understood, and it is defined as something like the panic or the helplessness which people feel when they look at a math problem. And how does this anxiety develop is, suppose many children, okay, when they come and to face a math exam, they feel anxious, and this mental stress or this anxiety, it what happens, it manifests in the physical form. So basically your heart starts to pump faster, your palm starts to sweat, and your your stomach, you start getting stomach pains. Many children experience actual stomach pains before an exam. And then what happens is, the part of your memory that is actually has to sit and work on your problem, it becomes less, because you're worried about your physical symptoms, right? And that leads to poor performance, and then that leads to increased anxiety, and so this is a vicious circle. So we as math educators or math teachers, we'll have to find a way to break the cycle, right? And so let's see how this can be done. And for this to happen, we'll have to break many myths in learning as such. So what we find is, many times we say, or we think that math skill or a study skill in general, this person is naturally good at studies, or he has got a natural talent for math, that's what we talk to children about, right? And second myth is that science and math are hard subjects. They have perfect answers. You cannot just write stories like you write in history and things like that. Third is, if you're good at math or science, you are automatically considered to be smart. Okay, and that kind of that is not generally okay, because you have something called multiple intelligences. Like Gardner came up with this beautiful idea about like 30, 40 years back, where he talked about different kinds of intelligences. Like you can be like what we call, what we call as, people smart. There are people who are very good at talking to other people and making friends. That is an interpersonal intelligence. Or you can be music smart. You can have this real ear for music, right? Or you can be body smart, in athletics, or in or those kind of children are there. Or you can be picture smart, like you call them spatial intelligence. So these are different kinds of intelligences. And what we are looking at, math and science, is just the small part where we say, okay, in school that math and science works well, and that's the logical and the so I'm not saying that all these different, there are different kinds of intelligences, and there are children who are a little bit more tuned towards one or the other better. But the thing is, what is important for us to realize is, at school level, right, all children can do well at math. They can score well at math. They might require a little bit more time, all right, but then they will be able to do well. And if we put up all these things to children, saying that, you don't have that skill for math, you're not good at it, or it's very, very hard subject, or, you're not smart in this particular respect, the child loses confidence and stops to try even, right? So why should I try at something which I'm definitely going to fail? And that is a problem. And so the game is lost before we even begin. So let's look at some. There are these 6, all of us recognize these 6 famous scientists, right? You have Faraday, electromagnetism, you have Graham Bell, telephone, you have Darwin, you have Edison with his electric bulb, Einstein, science and space-time, E is equal to mc squared, and such fantastic revolutionary ideas. And then you have Da Vinci. So what do you think is common among all of them, other than that they are very, very famous scientists? Curiosity, yes, of course, they were all very curious, yes. Strong in maths, okay. Pardon? Analytical skills, okay. So surprisingly, Da Vinci was an artist, yes. He was an artist, he was an inventor, he even he invented so many things, including a scissors, So yeah, Da Vinci was like that. So, but, pardon? Yes, innovative ideas, all new ideas, yes. But one thing very, very special about all these at school level is, they didn't do well at school. They were, in fact, Faraday, his mother has to take him out of school and taught him at home. Einstein failed many exams. Darwin, 3 of them were supposed to be dyslexic. They had problems reading and writing, right? At school level, they did not shine at all, right? So how do you take such people, children, whom we at a school level, we think, they are not that good, or they're not shining, and then you bring them up to be an Einstein or a Edison, right? So that is what I'm trying to say. So the kind of exams what we have at school, okay, does not necessarily show whether they are bright or whether they are creative or whatever it is, right? They can still do amazing things when they grow up, and for that, we as educators, we have to build that confidence in them, right? So, so I'm just looking at math now. So when you look at the math, whatever, it has many axes, right? There is a computational procedural part of math, and that's what we focus at schools, Okay, what I mean by this is we tell them the formula for a rectangle is equal to length into breadth. Okay, how do you find LCM? This is a procedure. You take all those numbers, you divide them by a common factor, and then you multiply them. So you have a certain set of procedures like this. But we don't tell them how, I mean, we tell them how to do it, but we don't tell them why we do it. Okay, unless we tell them why is the area of a rectangle length into breadth? Okay, or why do we do LCM the way it is done? Okay, unless we tell them, that's what we mean by conceptual understanding. So if you make it as a series of procedures, it becomes boring. Okay, it becomes just formulae they have to memorize. In fact, all the formulae in 2D geometry or 3D geometry can be derived like that. If you just understand why it is, we don't even have to remember the formulae. It can be taught so beautifully. Yesterday you had this origami session, but by Shastri sir, all of 2D geometry at school level can be taught by folding paper and origami, the whole thing. Okay, and then the third, so that second thing is what we call as conceptual understanding. So when you have a rectangle, the area is like this, and why is the area length into breadth? Okay, and then if you twist it slightly and give it, if the child doesn't understand just the basic thing, sometimes we say length into breadth, sometimes we say base into height, and there itself the child is confused. What is height, what is breadth, is it the same? So the underlying meaning of that area, why we get that into, that multiplication, they have to understand. Third is the problem solving skills, right? That is when you give a real world problem, if there's a slight change in the problem, you don't give length is this much, breadth is this much, all right, and then you give it as a little bit differently, they won't be able to solve unless there is a in-depth understanding. So the creativity, like how they are going to apply the math formula, or how they are going to get into solving that real world problem comes. So if we bring in all these three axes of math and not just concentrate on the computational procedural part, then math becomes interesting, it becomes beautiful, it becomes like, you know, it brings up the 3 C's, the curiosity, creativity, critical thinking. All those things become part of, and it becomes a joyful process, math learning. No child is left behind. You know, there are children, and we as educators, as teachers, you know, it's not like before. Like what are ancient sages? So they just had to tell and the children have to learn. It's not like that anymore. If we are curious, if any one of us curious and we have a passion to learn, we can do so easily, right? You have everything on the internet and Google, and you have so many opportunities to learn. So we don't have to be, a sage on the stage. Like we don't have to tell our children everything. We just have to be a guide on the side. That is, we have to guide the children how to learn. That's enough. We don't have to, we can easily tell them, I don't know this, I don't know that, because there are so many things we don't know. But let's find it together. So that should be our approach as teachers, right? So this particular thing that all children can do very well at math, at least at school level. Okay, they may not become math professors or whatever it is, or take math later on, but that fear of math will go away. Yeah, that see, till 5th I see children are okay with math. 6th they introduce integers, negative numbers. Suddenly you have a minus sign, and then you introduce algebra where you have letters in between numbers, and then you have fractions, and those from 6th that fear starts. And if you don't address it properly, if you don't teach it properly, it continues, and it makes a huge difference throughout their lives, you know, what they choose later on. Okay, so that's the reason why I would like to, all the different topics in middle school can be introduced in a very engaging manner for children. And this fractals I found it's one of the ways where we can introduce exponents and do activities with it, right? So just look at what exactly is a fractal. So fractals are what we call as infinitely complex patterns that are self-similar across different scales. So what do we mean by self-similar? Is the whole is very similar to the part. So if you look at part of a cauliflower, it's very similar to the whole cauliflower, right? So if I look at part of this, it's very similar to the whole cauliflower. Or a small part of this compound leaf, the leaflet, is very similar to the whole leaf. And then you have a part of a tree branch is very similar to the whole tree branch. And this is what we call as self-similar, right? And secondly, this fractals can be created by a very simple repetitive process. Okay, let's see how. And so at the end of this session, I hope you'll all agree with me that fractals are smart. They are science, math, art all together. All right. So this is one of the simplest fractals. So we'll see how it is created. Am I standing in the, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So you start off with a single line. All right. That is a seed. So you have I said a simple repetitive process. So the process is you just add 2 lines to the tip. The 2 lines are going to be half the size as the first line. Okay, that's the first iteration. Sorry. Yeah. So this is the first iteration. You get a Y. Second iteration, now these 2 are the tips. You have 2 tips. You do the same process. I'm going to attach 2 more lines to the tip, which are like half the size approximately as these lines, right? And then again you continue the process. Now I do it 4 times. Each time I attach 2 smaller lines. And if I continue like this is this beautiful tree structure that I get after maybe 10 or 12 iterations. We can see it happening. The lines become shorter and shorter, right? But the number of lines become larger and larger. And so if we attach, like after 4 iterations is the tree, and then if I put apples or something like that at the end, we can teach fractions in many ways. Like what are half the number of, like half the tree, how many apples? Quarter tree, how many apples? Right? This is half a tree. This is quarter of a tree. This is 1/8. And then you can teach them similar, like half is equal to 2/4 is equal to 4/8, equivalent fractions. You can teach them small fraction addition. The thing is, instead of always giving them numbers and do addition, make it boring, you come up with another way different ways to teach them the same fractions, right? And give them more interesting homework. So now let's look at how we can have exponents. So when I started with the seed, I had a single segment, and the segment length is say 1, right? Now in the first iteration, I'm going to add 2 segments, all right? So, and the size of these segments are half. In the second iteration, for each of these 2 segments, I'm going to add 2 more. So basically the number of segments become 4, 2 into 2, correct? And then you have the sizes become even lesser, so it becomes half of half, correct? And then the third, you're adding, at the third iteration, you're adding, for each of these 4 branches, you're going to add 2 more. So 4 into 2 or 2 into 2 into 2, right? So this is one nice way to teach them that how something can grow exponentially, and the meaning of an exponential growth, and it is, and they can see it, they can picture it, how fast it grows. 2 becomes 4, becomes 8, becomes 16, becomes 32, and so on. At the same time, since the segment length becomes half, you get something like negative exponents, right? So half of half, that is 1/4, or half of 1/4 is 1/8, then half of 1/8, and so on. All right? So is this understandable? Yeah. Okay. So now we can do it and show. I have this worksheets later on, you can try it out. And then we have what we call as a Sierpinski triangle. So this, you start off with a black triangle. Again, here the process, a single repetitive process is I'm dividing that into 4 smaller triangles. I'm shading the 3 of them as black and the other one. So again, repeat the process. Every black triangle is divided into 4 more, and 3 of them are shaded black, and so on. So look at the beautiful pattern it develops. And in this, because each time the number of black triangles get multiplied by 3, you have powers of 3, right? And the length of the side of the black triangle, okay, the length of the side of a black triangle becomes half of the previous. So it is again the powers of 2, I mean negative powers of 2. And this is how your fractal, this is a GIF I found, how that looks so beautiful if you zoom in. So this is what we mean by self-similarity. The inside, the triangle looks very much like the bigger one. Every small part looks nice as the bigger one. So this shows powers of 4, where we start, that's a seed. This is a seed. And at all the 4 tips, we are going to increase it like this. Add 4 more, 4 more, 4 more. And so you get the number of dots goes up by the powers of 4. And see, the thing is, it's very hard for our minds to comprehend what we mean by an exponential growth. This is what happened during COVID, right? Why did the number of cases in COVID just become we called it exponential. It increased within a matter of weeks. It could affect millions of people. And this is the reason. So look at how it grows, right? The numbers grow like, it's just 256 and then, and so on. This shows another very famous fractal called the box fractal. So each time it is, black square is divided into 9 smaller squares, out of which 5 are shaded black. Again, each black square is divided into 9, and so on. So many what we call as explorations or small activities. You can talk about perimeter and area and fraction and everything in this. Spend 2-3 days on this. Let the children, take it in, absorb, enjoy, and then see how wonderful it is. The wow factor, right? So number of black squares increase by powers of 5, whereas a perimeter is 4 sides of a square, and each time the length of the side becomes 1/3. Okay, initially if the length is 1, it becomes 1/3. Then it becomes 1/9. For this smaller square, it's 1/9 the whole square, and so on. And then the total perimeter, what do you get? And then the fraction of the original square. So all kinds of different questions you can ask on this. And this is another very famous fractal called the Koch snowflake fractal. And if I look at it, it just starts off with a triangle, and then I build each time every edge. This edge of a triangle is divided into 4 parts, and one part, just center part, pops out like this. That's the repetitive process. It pops out like this. So you become, and then every side again do the same process. Divide into 3 parts, and the center part you bring it out as a smaller triangle like this. You continue, and so you get this the fractal, right? This is how it grows, the fractal grows. And there is something very beautiful about this fractal, something which is amazing. So let's look at what it is. So you have, this is the fractal, right? And let's look at the perimeter. So what happens is, initially I start off by triangle. See, the length is 1, the segment length is 1. Number of segments in this triangle is 3, so the perimeter is 3. Then first iteration, the segment length of each these small ones is 1 by 3, and each one is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So 3 into 4, right? And the perimeter is this, right? So, and then the second iteration, it becomes even smaller, and the number of segments increase. So, number of segments into the segment length gives you the perimeter. This is the perimeter after the second iteration, and this is third iteration. Now, if I look at this closely, each time I am multiplying by the factor 4 by 3, and 4 by 3 is greater than 1. So, which means this quantity, the perimeter, as I go on and on and on, it is going to increase without a limit, because this you are increasing by multiplying by factor of more than 1. So, it goes up to infinity, right? Perimeter goes on increasing as the fractal grows into infinity, whereas if I look at the area, right, you start off with this initial area, say if that one triangle, some area A, right, and then the next time I am adding, and each number of triangles added. So, this is an initial triangle, and to that I am adding 3 smaller triangles, each having a area of 1 by 9, right. This smaller triangle has an area 1/9 the original triangle. So, the total area of this figure is this, the initial A plus 3 by 9th A. And then the second iteration, again I add, the number of triangles are each time it is going to be multiplied by 4, and then this is the area of it becomes 1/9 of this, and then so this is the sequence I get, progression. Yeah, for higher classes you can teach progressions also with this. So, as you see, each time the area I am adding is smaller and smaller. 4 by 9 is smaller than half, and it is getting smaller and smaller. And you can see that the area is also bounded. It all remains within this place, how much ever the fractal grows. So, this particular fractal, the amazing property is it has infinite perimeter, but it has a finite area. So, this I found like something mind-boggling, right? Something that the perimeter can go up to infinity, but then the area is still limited. And so, where does this, so when these fractals were first, theoretically they came up with it. I mean, I'll tell you about the person who came up. And then we'll see the applications of this in the real world. That is what is fascinating about math. You find something, theoretically something, and you think where it is, and then you find some fantastic real world application. So, and this is used now, fractals are used to, they are used to model coastlines. Why coastlines? Because a coastline, suppose I measure it with huge, big scale, say. So, I am saying, suppose I have a huge scale like this plus this plus this plus this. So, India's coastline is something, I can say something like 5 or 6. But then I use a smaller and smaller scales to measure it. So, then I will be going in and out of all these different coast, right. So, then it goes on increasing, okay. And the smaller the scales you use to measure, you go inside every single rock and every single pebble, the coastline goes up to, it does not have an upper limit, right. And that is what is called as a coastline paradox. Whereas the area, of course, area of our country, it's a constant area. You can't say the area goes to infinity. But then the perimeter, if you go in and out, and this is caused by a repetitive process, that is erosion. Erosion keeps on eroding and goes inside, outside, right. So, that is what this is. So, this is called the coastline paradox, and so the snowflake is used to model coastlines, it is used to model clouds, and many things in nature which are considered very haphazard. They did not have any mathematical, they could be modeled using fractals, right. And so, this Jurassic Park, you would have seen the movie or the book, and in the book you have this dragon curve fractal, and look at the operation. It is just that you take the center and then you make 2 more lines, bring it in, right? So, and this is how it develops and looks like a dragon apparently. So this is what is found in that book. If you see every chapter by Michael Crichton, and you would have seen the movie. After 12th iteration, 13th iteration, this is how it looks, right? So, and this is some person had put up a GIF, I'm just putting, he was the father of this fractals. He coined the name, and it was very recent in 1980s or so, and he passed away in 2010. And he came up with this idea of cell similarity, and he showed how visual complexity, it looks very complex, but it can be created with very simple rules. And that is and then many things like they are a mess or chaotic like clouds, they had actually a degree of order. So there is so much more to fractals. This is a very simple part. It goes up to very, very complex. But then we can use this simple parts to teach children and get them interested in math and get them, passionate. And this is his fractal. It is named after him. It is caused by some complex numbers like a plus ib or something. And this fractal foundation has got number of activities with fractals for children, and there are so many other thank you so much. So now so I would like to distribute okay. So I just want you just to try drawing some fractals. So let's start with this fractal tree. So we can use a square paper behind, and you can try drawing them. So initially you can try to draw a line of length, say maybe 8 or something like that, right? That is your seed. You can just try drawing this particular thing. After the first iteration, the second iteration, and so on. So you can try drawing a seed, the initial one line, say maybe 8, okay? Light, huh? Yeah, use a square paper, yeah, behind. So you can use a square paper and you can try drawing. Okay, that's your first step. Maybe 8 units or something. Whatever you want, you can draw. 8 units, right? And then to this tip, okay, so what is the repetitive process? You add 2 lines to every tip, which are half the size of this original. So just try drawing at an angle. So if this is 8 units, these are 4 units each. You can use last page, It's easier to just draw. It doesn't exactly have to be 4, but you can just try. Then to this tip, you add 2 more, which are maybe 2 units. Yeah, you may not get exactly 2 units because it's the diagonal, but still you can just try. And then again with 1, 1. And then half. So you can continue as much as, yeah, it may not be exactly 4, but you can use 4, yeah, diagonally 4. Sorry. All right? Yeah. So if you have done this, is it okay? Okay. Then you can try filling up that in the front, which I've given the column, the thing. So each time the number of segments, yeah, you can try filling it up yourself. Otherwise, you can. Huh? Pardon? No, this is fine. This is fine. I'm saying.
Okay, from here, right.
Yeah.
The other one, right.
So what have I? So I have added one more column, the total number of segments added. So that just like 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 will come in that. Right? So is this okay? And there's one more, I think, column in the worksheet which tells a number of line segments added each time. And in that, so it is like each time 1 plus 2, then 1 plus 2 plus 4, and so on, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8. So children who are learning sum of squares or something like that, you can show them this. Yeah. All right. No, that is the next one. You finished that one? The other one? Ah, very nice. Okay, so then the tabular column in the front? No, in the first page? Ah. So the number of segments added and so this is
2 square
yeah,
minus 2
yeah.
is
Total number of segments.
segments.
Initially there is 1,
Correct.
then 1 plus 2 is 3,
Correct.
then 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 4. Yeah, then it is 1 plus 2 plus 8. Yeah, so there is a total, there's one more column saying total number of segments, right? So initially there is one segment. Here I have segment length. That's as it is. Here it is 1, then it is 1 plus 2, that is 1 plus 2 plus 4, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8, and so on. Like finally you will have how many line segments in this, supposed to the power of n, right? It is 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 to the to power n. N minus 1, sorry, because you start with 0. All right? Shall we go to the next one? So next is your, so I have drawn a triangle in the second page. In that we can try to draw these. And if you use different, this is in black, but if you use different sketch pens colored, you can actually like, so you can make it into 4 triangles initially, right? Each time you make it divide into half, use a different color, and that gives us beautiful, this I've done maximum, but then this is the iteration, so this is just to show. So initially I have 4 triangles, and then the top, the outer 3, the center one you leave as it is, the outer 3 you color it in different colors. So what do? You take the midpoint. The triangle is already there. Yeah. So the triangle is already there. You take the midpoints and make it into 4 triangles. Then the outer triangles, again divide them into 4 more. Just continue like that. So each iteration, try to use a different color. Remember, this center part should be left as it is, only the outer triangles. If I divide it into 4 triangles, only the outer center one you should leave. You should not divide further. The outer ones you should still divide further. On that seat. There's also already a triangle drawn. No. This. There only. Because it's.
Each part should be center.
You count, no. Number of 16. After 8, you divide, put 1. Yeah.
Okay, in between anywhere?
Yeah, like that. And then here also 16. So that's why I put this triangle. It might be a little difficult otherwise. Yeah. That is nice. Every iteration use a different color. The center, just this, correct. Just the center triangle should be colored. The others you should divide them in further. Yes. Center you color. Outer ones you divide them further. You can come forward. You can see better. No? Please come forward. also a very nice pattern. But
No, it's a different pattern. I just drew the pictures.
yeah, this is okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is how.
The center one.
Have to be colored.
No, not those. No, those will go on. The center ones have to be colored.
That's what.
No,
Yeah.
this, and this.
And
These will
all
be
that.
divided further. You can just, this part will be colored, this part will be colored. This you have to do like so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a very nice activity for even us. It's very calming. It's a calming activity. Yes.
It's a therapeutic.
Yeah.
My child craft teacher
Ah.
usually give like that, and then we will do embroidery. We will do.
Yes,
and
and
pattern on the
yes, and this is the 3D, the same thing, 3D fractal. By paper cutting, the same thing.
Oh, wow.
You can do it in we did a Christmas tree, like this. So we can, so many things can be done, which the children, nowadays we don't even have art and craft activities in schools. Craft at least we don't have.
Craft teacher will be there.
Craft teacher will be there, yes.
And even sewing machine also one
Yes,
teacher will
yes.
be there. I don't know now everybody.
Yeah.
I'm talking about government school.
No, even in other schools, I studied knitting and crochet and all in school, learned. So yeah, so this is so, and then we stuck it to a card like this, and then had this greeting card. Can you take like 10 minutes extra? Or next session will be difficult, no?
Slightly, because that's already less time.
Okay. I'll stop now.
Everything is known to everyone.
Yeah, so this, you can, the tabular column is there in the front, in the first page. You can try filling it up. So the powers of 3. Yeah, this is the, no, the center one you don't divide.
Okay, only the
center.
center, except
See,
center.
yeah.
Only the extra. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So it gets confusing if, so at every iteration, we just finish off shading the center.
Full,
So
yeah.
So we
that
don't
no,
get confused.
No confusion, yes.
So like you've shaded these 3 correct,
Correct.
no?
That's
like,
what's only
yeah.
central part, one single color.
Yeah. Yeah, you can try, we can finish this at home maybe.
Yeah.
Let's try to do this, and then in the first page you can try to fill up the tableau where we teach them exponents, and we can try one more fractal. I would like you to try drawing one more fractal. So yeah, that is very nice, beautiful. Yes. actually you should not color the outer things. You should color only these, the center one.
Okay.
This will be divided further. See
These are
this?
the individual.
Yeah. So if it is like this, you color only the in center ones, and this is center, but
Okay,
these
so
little,
in single you have already like drawn the other triangle.
yeah, because and this goes on forever.
Fraction.
Goes on inside forever, right? So when you start off, you just make sure you color the center, then divide the outer. Color the center, divide the outer, like that. Then you don't get confused. Yeah. Yes, very beautiful. So no. So this is nice, but you can continue the process. So here you can make smaller triangles. So instead of coloring these, color these. That you don't divide. What is not colored, that you divide. Okay. So this is very nice, but you will go further. You will go inside some more. So these center ones you color. Like here, the center ones I have colored, and then the outer ones keep on dividing. Yeah. Like this. Yeah. So now if you color the center,
Okay.
this, then these other outer triangles you have to, it will go further. It will go on and on. You can make it like this, see? You can make it. Yeah.
Hands-on activity means when you read layouts like
Yeah, so you can just try another 5 minutes we have, I think. You can try the box fractal, you can try. In the square paper, you can try this. So this many things, like first full black, then 5, then make it 5. You can take a 9 by 9 square. So you take a 9 by 9 square and then fully shade it. Then second iteration, so show it differently. So this is the first, and the seed, or rather this is the seed. This you divide into 9. So 3, 3, 3. And this you have to shade only 5 squares out of the 9. First iteration. And then this second one. And this, once again, every single black square can be divided into smaller ones, like here. But at least if you can draw these three, you'll get an idea about how to proceed. So yeah, that's how it is. Yes. Yeah. And you can try filling up the perimeter and why it is so. You can try to reason out. Yes, you can just take a look at how the Koch's snowflake in the other triangle sheet. You can try it out. So this is the first iteration is a single big triangle. Then you add these triangles. So each time you add these smaller triangles to the tips. Okay, the area goes on increasing, but it is still within this boundary. It is limited, but the perimeter goes up to infinity. So yeah, you can. Yeah, it's enjoyable to us also so much. Yeah. No, once you give coloring to children, they are very happy. They will sit with, but they will learn a lot in that coloring. Yeah. So you don't have to.
Along with that, progression also.
Progressions we can teach. So it can be taught at the same. See, you can revisit fractals every grade. You can start at smaller grades, coloring and things like that. As you go larger fractions, then everything can keep increasing. Yeah. Time is not there. Yeah. Yeah, sure. No problem. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bama, for the very interesting hands-on session for the day. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now we will have a short tea break for 15 minutes. We will get back at 11:15 sharp. Thank you.